This video is designed to give you a quick overview of how to use a tool called Replit for Python development. In particular, we are going to be using it for our data science project. So when we're looking at big data sets, there's lots of different ways we can analyse the data. So we want to do common things like search the data, filter the data, gather statistics. And there's lots of ways we can do that, starting from the very simple use of Microsoft Excel, which has got a data analysis toolkit that can provide us some basic information, some standard statistics, it can draw some graphs. We can use other packages such as you might have heard of R language. What we are going to be doing is we are going to be using Python. Python is also commonly used to help with data analysis in the field of data science. Because we've been learning Python over the last few months, this is a great way of showing a practical application of those skills for an industry purpose. So in order to use Python for data science, we have to use particular packages, which we'll talk about in a moment. And the easiest way to set these up is just to use the online tool Replit, which means that you don't have to actually download and install anything on your own machine. It also means you have got your own space in the cloud where your work is saved. So at any time you can jump on to any PC, log into Replit, and you can continue working on your project. Now, I'm aware that quite a few of you have already used Replit for other purposes, so you might already have an account. If you don't, then if you visit replit.com and just click on the sign up button, it gets you to create a username, you need an email address and a password. Once you've done that, you can then log in. So that's what I'm just going to go ahead and do just now. So I am going to log into my account, and it takes you to your initial dashboard, which shows you the things that you've done so far. So you can see that I've been creating a couple of projects just to sort of practice a few things and try out a few things. So on the left hand side you've got your profile here, and you've got your folder of what your current REPLs are, as they call it, so your current projects. You can also see your projects here, so there's two of my recent projects as well. So if you want to, you can go into your folder and pick a project, or you can go ahead and create a new project. So we're going to go ahead and create a new project. So I'm just going to click on the plus button. So by default, Replit supports multiple languages. I think there's over 50 languages supported in this tool. So obviously we're looking for the Python language. So I've already got it as a favourite because I've used it more often, but you can search for it if it doesn't appear at the top. So you would just type Python into the search and you would find it. So we're just looking for Python. We don't need the turtle, that's a drawing application. It's just a straightforward Python we're looking for. So once we've picked in Python, then we need to give our project a title. So I'm just going to call it Data Science FA. It's a good idea to get into the habit when you're naming things in your project to give the name with no spaces. That's so that when you transfer into another environment, then you don't have any issues. So a good idea is make sure you use labels or names without any spaces in them. So that's me creating a Python project. I've given it a title, and I can now just click on create, and it'll actually set up that project for me. So it's now moving it into a new presentation of Windows. So this is the Python development environment. Over on the left hand side we have got what is in our project. So this is all the files in our project. So at the moment you can see by default it gives you one Python file, so one .py file called main. This is the file that it will always choose to execute. So any code you want to actually be run, you will need to put it in the main.py file. To edit the file, you've got the file highlighted, and that automatically in the middle here you've got your editor. So you can see here the file we're editing is main.py. So let's just do a simple print message just to get started. So I'm just going to put in print hello. That's all. And then I'm going to run it. So to run the program, we just click on the green run button and the output appears over here on the console. So the console tab shows us the output from our program. Other things we've got over here, we've got other options down the left hand side. A lot of these features we are not going to be using. Version control basically just allows us to create different versions of our project that are each individually identified so that we can swap between versions. We've also got the debugger to help us if we've got errors in our program. It helps try and figure them out. The one we are going to be looking at, and I'll show you during this demonstration, is we are going to be installing additional packages. And I'll discuss a bit more about what that means in a minute. There's also other configuration settings, so you can set up security settings, general settings for your project. You can add in a database to your project. There's lots of different additional options, but we're just keeping it straightforward, quite simple. We're just going to be editing a Python file. So in order for us to start using Python to do some data science work, there's actually a whole lot of Python code that already exists out there that helps us with data analysis. So the most common and standard data analysis features have already been implemented in Python, and thankfully they've been saved off so that we can make use of them within our code. So effectively think about it as a library of bits of code that have already been done and we can simply use the code. We've already looked at things like this before. We have looked at the random package, which has a whole load of code that deals with random number generation. There's lots of different packages out there. So a package is basically just like a library of pre-written code that we can then just go ahead and use, so we don't have to write it from scratch. So for data science, Python has got a library called pandas. So that's the library where all of the useful bits of code for performing data science types of operations exist. So it starts off from simple things like reading in data files and searching through the files, extracting information out of the files, sorting the data in the files. So simple things like that, up to more complex things like actually generating statistical data, etc. So we're going to start off with the basics, but before we can start, in order to access these pre-written functions, pre-written bits of code, we need to install the package. So the pandas package for data science programming does not come as part of the default install, which you can understand. If the default install included all these additional packages, we would end up with a massive installation every time we tried to put Python onto a machine. So it installs a core Python programming interpreter, and then any additional packages you have to add them on after installation. So the first thing we're going to do is add on the pandas package. So to add a package, we click on the packages. Now you can see for this project I have got no packages installed. You will need to go through this process for every project. So if you do create a new project, a separate one, you'll need to go through the process again. So what we're going to do is we're going to search. So we're going to look for pandas. And you'll see it comes back with a multitude of versions for pandas. Now what to be careful of here is that at the very top we've got this pandas 2 version 0. So this actually is a bit of a beta release that isn't complete, so I want you to ignore that one. What we're looking for is we're going to install pandas version 135. So that's the sort of latest stable release of pandas. You'll see there's additional versions and slight variations down here. A lot of these are add-ons, so additional packages that can be installed on top of the base pandas package. We're just going to focus on the base pandas package, and it's going to be the version 1.3.5, and I'll put this in the I'll create some PowerPoint slides just with that information. So what you'll notice is that this package actually depends on other packages being installed. So some of these other packages come with the core Python installation, some of them don't. So you'll find that when we install pandas, it might also install some additional packages as well that pandas needs. So to install it, we just simply click on the plus, and then you'll see over in the console, it's going through the process of installing all of the pandas package information. So it does take a wee bit of time. So it's saying it's updating the dependencies. So here's the dependencies here, and it's trying to resolve them. So it's checking, do I already have these packages installed, because I need to use these packages in order for me to work. So it's just checking that just now. So it'll take a wee while to go through and get all that installed. The other package we are going to install is one called OpenPyXL, which, as the name suggests, it allows you to open Excel files. So when we've installed pandas, it will give us the ability to open CSV files, which we talked about in our class. So remember, that's files that are in a comma separated variable format. So basically each line has got data in it, and each bit of data is separated by a comma. It'll read those files in. It's also useful to be able to read in Excel files, because quite often, if you're given a big data set, it's quite often stored as an Excel file. So I'm going to show you how to open up data sets that are comma separated, that are Excel files, and that are just text files. And then that way, that should cover all the different types of data sets that you might be given to process. So by default, the ability to open an Excel file is not installed in the standard installation. So as well as installing pandas, we are going to also install another package, which is called OpenPy for Python XL. So you can see again, it's there at the top, so we can just click to add that one as well. So you want to install both of those. What happens is, when you install packages, you'll see when we go back to look at our files. So right now we're in the packages frame. If I go back and look at the files, you'll notice that it's added some files to our project. To be honest, you don't really need to worry too much about these, because you're not going to be editing them or touching them. But what these basically have, the poetry.lock, strange name, poetry.lock, basically as soon as you install packages, it creates one of these files. And all this file does is it contains the dependencies for your package. So it contains a list of all the things that your package needs, basically. The pyproject.toml, again, that's a file that we're not going to be editing. It's automatically created, as you've seen. Basically, it's used if you want to create your own Python package. In that file, if you are going to create your own Python package, which we're not, we're just creating a simple Python program, then if you want to create your own package, then in that file, you basically set up a list of what version of the build tools you want to use to build your package. So again, that's advanced stuff that we're not going to be covering as part of this topic. But just for completeness, I wanted you to understand that two files have been auto-generated and why they're there, but you don't need to touch them. The only file you're going to be editing is this one here. So what we can now do, we've now got pandas installed and the OpenPyXL installed. If you want, you can go back to packages and it will show you what you've got installed. So you can see now, it tells me I've got pandas installed and I've got the OpenPyXL. Going back to my file again and my main.py, what I can do now that I've got pandas installed, I can, and it's normal to do this at the top of your program, if you want to use a package, then you have to import it. And this is something that, as I've said, we've done before with the random package. So to say you want to use a package, you include the command import and then the name of the package. So I'm going to use the pandas package. Now, every time you use something in that package, you have to use the package name followed by a dot, followed by the name of the function you want to use that's inside that package. So it would mean that every time I want to use something, I would have to say pandas dot and then whatever it is I want to use. So it's quite time consuming having to type that in all the time. So what you can do is, instead of having to write out the word pandas every time, you can actually give your package an alias, so you can give it a shorthand name. So I'm going to do that, and to do that, basically you extend this command to say import the package called pandas, and I want you to call it PD. So I'm now basically shorthanded that to PD. So now, instead of having to write pandas all the time, I can actually just do PD dot and then whatever it is I want to use. So it is just a shorthand alias to save you having to write it out. Okay, what I'm going to do now is stop the video. I just wanted to give you an overview of how to set up your Replit, and next step is to start using Python to do some manipulation of files, and then obviously to take that a step further and actually start to do some analysis of the data within the files. One last thing before I forget actually, one other thing you might want to be able to do, and you will for the data science project, is you will possibly want to add additional files into your project. So in particular for us, if we're going to be analysing data files, we need to actually add that data file into our project so that our Python code can access it. So to upload a file, what you need to do is go into your files, and you can click on the menu. 3 dots is basically just a menu shorthand, and you can go to upload file. So when you click on upload file, it will start off your file explorer, and you can browse until you find your data file. So you can see here I've actually got a few data files already sitting in my folder. So I've got a CSV file, so a comma separated file. So you can see that in the file previewer. You can see it's just a file that contains, in this case it's Pokemon data. It's just quite a simple file set to have a wee look at. So this is a file set full of data regarding Pokemon. So you can see here that it has got different values, and each value is separated by a comma. So the first value is just a number, an identifier, and then the next value is the name of the Pokemon, then the type 1, type 2, it's HP, attack details, defense details, special attack details, special defense details, its speed, its generation, and its legendary status. So it's just some general information about all different Pokemon characters. So each of these individual values is comma separated. So this is a CSV file, comma separated variable file. So if I wanted to upload it, I've already clicked on upload file, so I would just simply double click to select it, and you would see that it uploads it and it adds it into my project, which is quite nice. So I'm going to show you how to deal with CSV files, Excel files, and text files. So I'm just going to upload each of these. So this one is an Excel file, so you can see Excel spreadsheet. So I'm just going to upload that one. So that's the Excel one, and then the last one I'm going to upload is the text file. And I'll make each of these files available to you guys so you can grab them as well. So that's how you upload files to your project. So you'll have one Python file where you write all your code, and then any other files that you need to support you in your project, you can also upload them as well. So in our case, we're going to upload these data files. Okay, I'm going to end the video just now, and the next part is we're going to show you some useful commands of what things you can use in the pandas package to start looking inside these files and analysing these files.